Okay, I'm going to talk about efficient use of land, and this is the second part of the presentation. The first part that Eleanor provided is a little bit on the overview on the compliance issue, how municipalities may take the regional plan into operation, take it back to the municipalities on how you make decisions, and also some information on how you do this filing of the statutory declaration, and that is part of the legal requirements set out in the Alberta Land Stewardship Act. What I come in for the efficient use of land is more on the ground, because efficient use of land actually, what it is one of the 7 broad strategies, if you are familiarized with the land use framework, the Blue Book, the policy book that was approved by the government back in December of 2008. So it is one of the 7 broad strategies within that land use framework. And simply it says to promote efficient use of land to reduce the footprint of the built environment. And on the assumption that land is a non-renewable resources and land is limited, so we better preserve it, we better make the most of it, in our development. So the objective here, as the overall land use framework, the policy is saying the government is not going to stop growth. Growth is imminent, growth is continuing, but the emphasis is to ensure that once the appropriate land use is determined, it occurs in a manner that minimize, the keyword is to minimize the amount of land that is taken up for the built environment. So basically, if you, previously, if you take a development that most likely take 10 acres, we encourage you to use the principles, the strategies to reduce it. If you can use it for 5 acres, that would be great. So that is the assumption. So the overall intent of the land use, the efficient use of land, as I said, is from the land use framework, and it is basically from when we were out there doing consultations back in 2005. It's almost a decade old now. We heard from municipalities, developers, landowners saying that, hey, this is what is reality. Growth is imminent. Economic growth will require a lot of lands for new developments, and that is why when the land use framework was approved, the new strategy. This is a new strategy that was not in the initial consultation. It was basically put it towards the end of the process. The government is saying, and actually everybody that we consulted is saying, efficient use of land to reduce the built environment, the footprint of that, is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing for our future generations. And actually, this strategy is to build awareness and education, on how municipalities, landowners, developers, the government, non-governmental organizations will be helpful, in doing this, building the efficient use of land philosophy and make it as a way of life. So what are included in the efficient use of land strategy? The strategy actually includes 6 broad principles. I'll talk about it later on. And also, as part of the strategy, we also developed the government, we also developed 2 tools compendiums, a toolbox. One is on the public lands, and the other one is on private lands. So, and within the toolbox, there are over 50 voluntary tools that stakeholders, developers, land use decision makers, planners will be able to utilize to help implement the 6 principles. Okay, go to the principle first. There are, like I said, there are 6 principles. The first one is basically to reduce the rate. The keyword is the rate at which land is converted from an undeveloped state into the permanent built environment. Like my example before, previously if you have to use 10 acres, maybe, if you can put it 5 acres. Second one is utilize the minimum amount of land necessary for new developments and build at a higher density than current practice. Very, I think they, like the Glorias, this is common sense, basically. This is common sense. Increase the proportion of future built environment footprint that takes place within already developed or disturbed lands, either through infill, redevelopment, and or shared use, relative to the future development, relative to the future built environment footprints that takes place on previously undeveloped land. It makes sense too if there is the land that are in the inner area, the mature areas, for example, in the big cities, make use of those lands to build higher density. So that is sort of the including the first two principles that in the inner city, that where the it is developed already, the land's been developed already, instead of going to the green areas, to the new suburbs. The fourth principle is to plan, design, and locate built environment in a manner that utilizes existing infrastructures. So basically, it's very common sense approach. There is an infrastructure. You don't need to basically spend a whole lot of expenditures in providing those new infrastructures, and also utilizing the previous principle is it is disturbed already. Where existing infrastructure is there already, utilize those before you go to the new areas. The fifth principle is on reclamation and or maybe convert previously developed lands that are no longer required for the current use, and reclaim it. In the public lands, like in the industrial developments, you reclaim it to the original state. Within municipalities, for example, there are a lot of older shopping centers, shopping malls that you can be reused. So this is sort of that principle. Principle number 6 is decision makers, land users, and individuals will have the information they need to make decisions and make choices that support efficient use of land, which is what we are doing now. We give you the information, and we'll share with you, like I said, the two compendium toolbox for you to consider. So basically, it is you have the information because you are at the front line, discussing those principles, those tools with developers, with landowners, with you are the decision maker. How does it work? So basically, to the center of the diagram is the land use decision. So somehow somebody will have to make a land use decision. In your case, either your development authority or subdivision authority. What you have to consider is basically all the legislation. And the center is the land use decision. So in a land use decision, you have to consider existing legislation and regulation. For example, the Municipal Government Act, or the subdivision and development regulations and everything. Like Eleanor was saying, there are 2 approved regional plans that are in place right now, the South Saskatchewan regional plans and the Lower Athabasca regional plans. So you have to consider those 2 plans if you are in those 2 regions. Other land use framework strategies and policies, for example, there is the cumulative effects management. There is the principle that underlining the whole land use framework. Like I said, this efficient use of land, I separated out as a purple box there, but it is embedded in that one too. It is one of the 7 strategies within the land use framework. So the principles and the toolbox will be highlighted in the purple boxes that you have to, consider. Not you have to. You are encouraged to consider those in your land use decisions. And on the left side, we have the other policies and plans. GOA or municipalities. Within your municipalities, you may have other policies and guidelines for you to consider. For example, in more sophisticated municipalities, you have the top-of-the-band policies, how you plan for parks and recreations. Those things will be feeding into the land use decisions that you are currently deciding on. And then hopefully through that decisions, you are implementing with the tools that I'm talking about, and then achieving the economic, environmental, and social outcome, which is what we are trying to do through the regional planning, through the land use framework exercise. And actually more emphasis on the economic development, because that is the theme of this conference. But by focusing on looking into the economic development aspect of the three-legged stool, we have to also consider the environmental and social. We don't want to make any land use decisions that are basically not balancing. So how to make decisions with efficient use of land? As it says on the slide there, is the strategy provides the tools to guide the land use decision maker to minimize over time the amount of land required for development associated with built environment. Let's assume, like in the economic, probably not now, maybe a year ago, with the economic high growth scenarios, you may heard about the overall the economy of Alberta will be doubled in 10, 15 years, or the populations are coming in at a rate of, I don't know the rate, but in 10 or 15 years it will be increased from 3 to 5 million people or whatever. So, and mostly concentrated on the two big cities or maybe the two big metropolitan areas. So what does it mean? How can the efficient use of land, this strategy will help? And basically without efficient use of land use planning, risk and uncertainty may curtail infrastructure development and also industrial development, because it is not in the coordinated. Everybody is doing their own thing, not in a coordinated fashion. In the North Saskatchewan, in the capital region, there is probably everybody is familiarized with the industrial heartlands. There are many petrochemical developments around there. So one of the principles that we can use on that is to share infrastructure use for those facilities. They can share, for example, electricity, if the storm management facilities share the road network, everything. So with efficient use of land, we are thinking it may improve productivities and also reduce environmental footprint or impact by maximizing the capacity of the infrastructure and identifying the appropriate locations for all the infrastructure developments. So that is one way how we can apply, how we can make decisions using efficient use of land. I mentioned about the two boxes. On the public land side, I also brought a copy. Does it look like the one on the picture? So basically, this is the, you can come take a look at after the presentation. So this is on the public land side. It is called the Integrated Land Management Tools Compendium. And indeed, it was released back in 2012. At that time, it was still Sustainable Resource Development, Department of Sustainable Resource Development. They compiled 27 tools that the land use decision makers, industrial industries can use on public lands when they develop on the public land side. So tools are focusing on the sharing existing footprint, on reusing old footprints, on removing old footprints, that is reclamation, or maybe coordinating developments, minimize new footprints. So those are the emphasis on the on the public land side. What about on the private lands? Actually, the private lands, it is called the Efficient Use of Land Compendium, Implementation Tools Compendium, which is released when the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan was approved and released back in September 2014 last year. So, and here is how it looks like. You can come out and take a look at after the presentation as well. So this one, it describes 29 tools. All these tools are voluntary, basically. That municipalities, land use decision makers, developers, anyone that are developing on private lands may be able to choose and pick from, to help promote the concept of efficient use of land. One thing that I want to emphasize is this compendium is even though it describes 29 tools, but the number 29 is not exhaustive. It is just 29 examples that are among, I don't know how many that are out there that promote the concept to some degree, you know. And also it is a living document. If we, in the process of doing more research, we come across several more tools that we may be able to, and we will, you know, incorporate into the next version. And also, this is sort of one of the intention or the outcome of the strategy is to build awareness and educate. So we share information, we work together. So basically, this is what I want to highlight. This is not end in all. This is a living document. This will be improved. And if you have any ideas that you want to share with us, by all means. And another thing that I want to highlight is the efficient use of land. The tools are included in the two toolboxes, and also the 6 principles. They are voluntary. They are entirely voluntary in nature, because we understand that not every single situation that a land use decision maker, whether it is on the public lands or on private lands, will be able to utilize the efficient use of land, the principles or the strategy or the tools. In some situation, maybe the best thing is to develop green areas, for example. So we acknowledge that. I'm not going to go through the 29 tools that are presented in the toolbox, but I want to highlight several on the slides. For example, we talked about the eco-industrial parks. So that is one of the tools that are presented in the in this blue book, you know, on the private lands. So what basically is, if you are familiarized with the eco-industrial park in Hinton, this is one, and also in Edmonton, the Northeast Industrial Park is sort of using the eco-industrial parks concept. So basically, it is a share of roads, a share of facilities, infrastructures within the industrial park developments. Priority growth areas, basically it is in your planning, you identify where growth will occur, and sometimes you put a target there, you know, a density target. You know, for example, in the Capital Region Growth Plan, they have priority growth areas and they have the targeted density for those areas. Minimum density requirements, basically you have also in your plan designate this is the minimum density. Unlike the priority growth, this is the area that you want to grow and that is the area. But in general, you know, for example, if it is in the, you want to redevelop renewal or redevelopment within your municipality, and you want to say in this area, this is sort of the minimum density requirements. Land budgeting is basically, I believe most municipalities doing that is to project how much land is required, and so that you know, with the density in mind, with the timeline in mind, you have a plan on how developments and redevelopments may occur. Efficient use of land, what I say here is a regional plan approach. As I mentioned, the toolbox was released last year in September with the adoption of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan. And what it is, basically, it is that Chapter 5 or Section 5 of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, it incorporated the 6 principles in the plan. So the 6 principles, you can find it in the regional plan, and it is the intention that those 6 principles will be replicated, will be repeated in the remaining regional plans. And the toolbox, you know, basically we will be working with, you know, with the municipality stakeholders, land use decision makers to, you know, to work on those, you know, or maybe improve those tools. Like I said, the fundamental outcome that we want to get from the efficient use of land strategy is to build awareness. Is to build awareness and understanding of the efficient use of land principles and determine how the principles might be applied. And eventually, if we can measure it later on.